intro music. Yeah! Woohoo!
Hey Star Trek Fleet of Men fans, this episode is honestly, I'm just going to be upfront with you. It's a little bit of a drama update, and I'm going to let you know what's going on here in the game and why there's so many players around you upset. And yes, Scopely's already attempted a compromise, but is it enough? I'm actually going to try to give this as an informative way and again save my thoughts to the very end, just to keep all of you up to date. Let's start with what actually happened. And what happened was, well, they removed everything great about the DTI. Okay, that's a little bit dramatic. What they did was right here, and they added cooldowns to everything. Now, we know that this probably should have been done when it came out, but that also needs to be pointed out that was 4 months ago. The DTI faction at this point has become an established mechanic where all of these items had no cooldown. And I really want you to focus on the highlighted portions of this, because I think this is a big issue and why players are so frustrated. It's how they say things and when they decide to make the moves. But we're gonna get y'all's opinions in the comment section down below. So if you've already got thoughts, feel free to share them now. Yeah, because the overlords are gonna be reading and watching. So, Janeway's Pocket Watch, Chrono Phase, Chrono Deflector, Chrono Time Weapon, Hugh and Leslie Officer Chest, Khan and Leslie Officer Chest, Beer Shards, Vial Shards, Tolri Shards, or Tol Ra Shards, and Toli Shards. This change keeps progression balanced. Keep that in mind. That was their reasoning of why we're going to be making this move. Then the compromise comes out today. This is from all of the irate nations and the irate words and the bans and the mutes that all happened on the official Discord, and tons of memes being made and content creators like myself and Ultimate DJ all agreeing this is awful for several reasons. Number one, as I already mentioned, this is a mechanic that's been out for a while now, established for months, not a, hey, this is the week it came out, we realized we made a mistake, we're going to change this. That would have made this semi more acceptable. But this is 4 months later, months after players have taken advantage of these various mechanics, and then the truth comes out in the compromise post itself, right here. As you can see, we heard your feedback on the recent cooldown changes of the DTI Faction Store and have implemented an improved solution that strikes a better balance between progression and game economy. So, the artifacts, Janeway's Pocket Watch and Chrono Time Weapon, will have no cooldown, tiers 1 through 7, but 8 and above will have a 22-hour cooldown, meaning you can't simply farm them for temporal conduits. This is what this really boils down to. It's taking away our precious pennies. So, this allows players to unlock and level up content as intended, but prevents unlimited temporal disruptor and chaos fragment generation once maxed, something we saw emerging recently. So now the truth comes out. It's not about progression. It's about, oh no, you can make unlimited temporal disruptors and chaos fragments. This means that you can max out your game and you can do all these things and you can get alliance tournaments tasks done, free to play, all these different things that can now happen. So they changed that. But what they did not change the officer cooldowns, which would only result in transporter patterns and XP, which is odd. So the compromise that Scopely has presented to you, and this one actually getting a post, is the artifacts, levels tiers 1 through 7, or if you've not owned the CTs, no cooldown. Once you have them to a certain degree, there's a cooldown. But with the officers, still nothing. So now I've actually made the pulls in mine already. So here's my DTI today. After the updates, after the proposed compromise, it's not even proposed, Scopely did it. Real question is it good enough for you, the player? As you can see, I have the normal cooldowns. I really want to emphasize that this system already had multiple cooldowns to begin with. For example, there's cooldowns on the Formation Armada directives, your ability to actually get the directives. There's a cooldown on how many of the exocomms you can even redeem. So that's a thing unless you have the relativity. And then there's a cooldown on these, the actual amount of credits you can earn each time around. Not to mention there's a cooldown on the rep. So the first two rows had multiple layers of cooldowns already baked in, slowing the progression of the DTI faction. Then we get down to here. So we have all these items, such as the Chrono Time Weapon, which as you can see, I currently have free pulling access because I've not tiered it up all the way. So you can then continue to farm this until I was to get it to tier 8, then a cooldown would kick in. But as you can see on Tol Ra, I still have the cooldown, and if I was to do Vial as well, let's go ahead and do it for the sake of science, you're going to see there's now a 22-hour cooldown, not allowing me to progress any further. Now, Janeway's Pocket Watch, as mentioned, has no cooldown if you are a temporal director or the chronophage itself, which is right behind me. So those have no cooldown unless you've acquired it for the CT or you've reached tier 8 for the artifact. Now, back to the primary point. Is this enough? And there are a lot of things I think are worth mentioning in this conversation, including other players' opinions. So I'm going to include one here. Now, this is from Varga, and I agree with what they're saying. It says, now I will say I don't agree completely, but I agree with the sentiment. And I feel like this is how a lot of players feel. This does absolutely nothing to solve the fact that you left this in place for several months. Whilst people have been able to benefit from no cooldowns, maxing out temporal artifacts and progressing their game, now pull the ladder up, blocking every other player from achieving the same. This balance you seek is misguided and shows just how out of sync with the player base you really are. And I'm not saying I fully agree, but this is a very common theme you see amongst player frustrations. And I think it's fair to show and voice those frustrations. If you had done this when you became aware of the issue a few days after the DTI faction launched, then it would have been sensible. Now you're actively hindering balance because you messed up. This also should be noted that this is happening right around the time that free-to-play players, pure free-to-play players, are unlocking their ship, allowing them to progress through this faction quicker, meaning those who've already had access, the early adopters, were able to take advantage of a system for months that allowed them to, again, max out those currencies. Now, what exactly were they getting? So if you pop on over into your refinery, you can see some of this here, where we'll take a look at our forbidden technology. Sorry, wrong one. Oh man. We'll take a look at our artifacts menu and you'll see the temporal disruptors. Well, temporal disruptors are what you're going to get, as well as the temporal remnants, once you've maxed out the temporal artifacts. So you were able to progress through these quickly if you took advantage of this by spamming the no cooldown, assuming you had the credits. And that's a real key here, because when we're talking about, is this really hindering player progression? It's not like people were just magically able to pull these for free. You were paying with them with the static and charged currencies. So you weren't exactly just like will the nil, oh, I've got unlimited everything and now I can max out all my stuff because I have the temporal disruptors, allowing me to then go max out every one of these, which then turns into remnants, making the artifact system quicker, because with the remnants, we then use those to max out the rest of our artifacts. It also should be pointed out that for the most part, this is a G6 thing anyway. So the idea of this is progression related to a lot of players just simply doesn't math out, because if it's about progression, there's already currency limits. So it's not like you can just go through this. What this really comes down to, again, referring back to the original post made today by Scopa themselves, prevents unlimited temporal disruptor claims or chaos fragment generation once maxed. Something we saw emerging recently. Again, who could this have happened with? Only the G6 players. And again, is this even an issue? Why would it be an issue? Well, the only issue it could be is the almighty dollar, making it simply too easy for a player to take a built-in mechanic that's been running for months and take advantage of what they want to spend their currency on. And really what it came down to is players said, hey, I can generate a ton of currency, and instead of investing in everything, I'm going to invest in one particular thing. Maybe I invest specifically in the pocket watch and get that maxed. Maybe I invest specifically in the Crenum time weapon, get that maxed, and ignored everything else. Because yeah, maybe when you design this in a vacuum, you say, oh, well, everybody's going to go after the officers and the artifacts and the CT and the favors all at the same time. Well, not everybody saw it that way. Some people said, hey, we can take advantage and this is going to allow us to progress our game over here. So the idea of what progression is seems to be skewed between how players see it and how Scopely sees it. And here's where I give my final opinion, or my opinion, 10 minutes into the video. I don't believe this is enough. I'm being honest, and I'm trying to be more diplomatic because I've been accused many times of being nothing more than a fanner of the flames, somebody who riles people up for no reason. This is what's been accused of me before. And whether you agree or disagree, I've only presented factually what has been said, what players feel, and what's happening. If you don't believe it's what players feel, then acknowledge the thousands of posts. And that's not an exaggeration. Hashtag free DTI. The fact that during our live stream yesterday, we had 500 people on YouTube all saying the same things. And while many of you might go, hey, that doesn't necessarily mean that's the entire player base, my counter to that is I don't think I represent the entire player base. But for the fact that 500 people attend this small stream, this small game at one time to gripe about something simultaneously says a lot. For those curious, I average about 350 people on a Wednesday. That's a stark increase in numbers, showing the frustration of the player base. This simply is not enough of a compromise. Going back to the original point made by many, This is an established mechanic at this point. You're changing the game, and how other people have had months to take advantage of this and have this opportunity. Why is everybody else now limited? Why is everybody else less important? Because if it really is about progression, I'd understand that argument on one point. If Star Trek Fleet Command was the game that put out an update every 6 months, sure, it would make sense. You want to slow this down. Why would you want people to finish it in 3 weeks, a month, even 3 months? That's not how this game operates. Every month, new features come out. Every month, new content comes out. And every month, more things are added that you have to keep up with, even if old things are taken away, because a lot of this is a speed up mechanic. That was what we loved about it. It sped up the original artifact loop greatly, including the temporal loop. And now you simply turned it into another loop. You've taken the DTI faction that was once revered and praised highly as one of the best factions in the game and sapped a lot of the good juice out of it. So, I don't think it's enough. My hope in this video is that it continues to push the free DTI movement, and maybe they'll hear. And other content creators are on board as well. Be looking forward to Ultimate DJ's stream where he's told me he's going nuclear. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Like the video if you haven't already. Hopefully this gets you up to date. And if you're one of those players that says, hey, I agree with Scopely, feel free to share that as well. Multiple opinions are welcome. But if you are still frustrated and you believe you're being done dirty, let us know, because videos like this and movements like free DTI are how things change for the better for the players. We'll say that I do like the change of tiers 1 through 7 having no cooldown. I just don't believe it's enough. And that's that. See you on the next one.
An even better outro than the intro. For the Empire and glory to your house.